Well, this is certainly a big question to ask and to answer. Am I going to be okay? Are you going to be okay? And we could really open the aperture and look at your entire life and your entire existence. But for the purposes of today, let's talk about just your finances, your personal finances, your money. Are you going to be okay? And the answer is that probably yes. But that doesn't mean that the okay that you end up with is the okay that you're going to want or that you do want today. We human beings have all these superpowers, and some of these superpowers can also be weapons of mass destruction. And one of those is probably the number one superpower weapon of mass destruction is our ability to rationalize things, to rationalize our situation. And all that means is I can talk myself into just about anything. I can I can maneuver and bend myself and contort myself into explaining why things are the way they are, why things worked out the way that they worked out, even if it's nowhere close to what I actually wanted. So, are you going to be okay? Let's frame this in a different way. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I spent a lot of time talking about it in my newest book, Your Money Story: How to Get the Ending You Want. In a lot of ways, that's what this book is about, is are we going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? And a fun mechanism that I came up with, framework, however you want to think about it, is Goldilocks. And if you remember Goldilocks, she stumbles into the bear's house and things are too hard, too soft, just right. And then the porridge, one was too hot, one was too cold, and one was just right. So, in the interest of not having you go through the motions of life, and when you end up wherever you end up, and talking yourself into why it is you are where you are and being okay with it, I would much rather we do a little bit of work on the front end here, position ourselves for success, knowing that nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to save you. Head on another one of my podcasts, a guy who was a disaster relief expert. And it was literally, sadly, right just as the North Carolina disaster was taking place. And the big thing that he talked about was that the government is just not capable of helping you. They're going to be hopefully capable of helping put the pieces back together and providing assistance, but it's up to you to prepare yourself and your family to be able to avoid a disaster, make it through disaster, and come out the other side of it. So it's incumbent upon us to do everything that we need to be doing to position ourselves for success so that we are ultimately successful and we actually do get what we want. So back to too hot, too cold, just right. What I encourage and advocate that you think about are using that framework is simply if everything goes exactly the way that you want it to, what would that look like? And that's going to demand that you have ideas of how you want to end up. Like when you want to be able to retire, where you want to be able to, where you're going to be living, the things you're going to be able to do, how much money you're going to have, all of those kinds of questions. So just fast forward, let's go out 20 years and say, okay, what would I really like my life to look like in 20 years or 30 years or 40 years or however old you are? The future, your future you. God willing, one day we'll all be older versions of ourselves. And caring for that older version of yourself today is what I'm talking about. So put yourself in position, put yourself in that frame of mind. What would you like to have? And then assume everything goes great. You're going to retire by the beach. You're going to be able to go out to eat and have time freedom and not have to worry about your finances, whatever that looks like for you. Think about that. Think about how good that's going to feel. And then think about who that's going to impact. Who else is going to benefit or enjoy you successfully executing on the plans that you made? It's going to be awesome. It's going to be totally great. Now, I want you to go the opposite way. Too cold. It all goes sideways. Nothing goes to plan. You don't get the things that you want. You end up never being able to retire, having to work some job that you're not interested in working, doing things you don't want to do, not being able to live by the beach or the mountains or the lake or whatever, not being able to eat whatever you want or to go out to eat when you want, not being able to travel. Crappy, super sucky. It all goes sideways. How's that going to feel if that's you when you're 70 years old and you've just got to work some crappy dead end job? And then the people that you care about, that you love, how's that going to impact them? How's that going to impact your life there? I want you to go there. Feel those feelings. Ick. Ugh. I don't want that for you, which is why I want you to stare it right in the face right now. Go to the place that you don't ever want to go. Experience it. Feel the feelings. And then finally, just right. Let's find that optimal solution. Optimal is really the most probable way that it's going to work out. I really do hope that you get what you want. I hope it works out great. I definitely don't want it to go sideways for you and for you to not get what you want at all. But odds are it's going to work out that just right, kind of that optimal. And what's that going to look like? So we'll plan for the best. We'll experience and think about the worst, and then end up hopefully somewhere between optimal and perfect. Okay? So how do we do that? How do we get there? I think that that's really what I want to talk about because that's going to help you to know that you're on track. So it'll give you a peace of mind knowing that you are doing what you need to do in service of what it is that you want. That's kind of what this all comes down to. We make we really make things pretty complicated and have a tendency to overthink a lot of stuff. Um, but the first thing in all of it is just to figure out what's most important. So what matters. Okay. And I like to think about it in the context of 6 key areas. So for your family, what is most important? So what matters? For community. So that's people outside of your family, your friends, your good friends, the things you're involved with, your affinity groups, stuff like that. For your money, that's what we're talking about today, and your career, that's number 3. So career and finance. Number 4 is personal development. So what do you want to learn just for the sake of learning? What do you want to do just for the sake of doing it? So this is hobbies, interesting intellectual endeavors, sports, athletics, stuff like that, painting, whatever, volunteering. And then from a well-being perspective, that is your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. So what do you want? What matters there? Think about what matters. And then finally, peace of mind. So what can you do? What matters? What would give you greater peace of mind? What would you do with more peace of mind? And then how do you get there? So the way that we screw all this up is we just kind of nod along to this. Like, oh yeah, totally. Yeah, 6 areas. Do the things. Figure out what matters. Oh yeah, I know. But then you don't do anything about it. Same thing with goal setting. Only 3% of the population has written goals. So odds are you don't. I know that I didn't. So I'm not browbeating you. I kind of am. But I browbeat myself too. That it took me until I was 35 years old to write goals. So it's been however many years that's been now. I'm 46. So it's been 11 years. And everybody was right. The verdict is in. When you write down your goals, you're going to have exponentially increased your odds of actually achieving them. So you need to write this stuff down. So don't just think that you having some passing idea about what matters and what is important and what you must do in service of what matters and what is important is good enough, because it's not. You have to put pen to paper or put fingers to keyboard and actually think about and write down. You have to think about, decide, and then write down these things that are of greatest importance. And then you need to figure out what you need to do in service of what matters. Do we need to consistently execute on those things? So try to create habits, try to create routines around all of those things. So I feel really good about the direction that country is moving in, that my life is moving in. I feel really positive about everything. So that's a good thing. I feel like the winds are at my back. Whereas really recently, I did not necessarily feel that way, but still need to put my hands on the wheel and keep my hands on the wheel and make sure that I am moving in the right direction. And then once everything's moving in the right direction, we can take our hands off the wheel a little bit. We all remember from physics that an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside object. So once you get the thing moving, once you have good habits, once you have good routines, once you're consistently executing on all the things that you need to do and execute on, then you can automate. You can be less focused if you so desire on this stuff. But as you're getting started, this is not a passive thing. It needs to be an active thing. So back to the original question, are you going to be okay? Well, I suggest to you, I submit that if you follow these steps, that you will in fact be okay. I want you to get whatever it is that you want when it comes to your personal finances. I believe that you are worthy. I believe you are deserving of everything that you want. And I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, definitively for sure, that we're not entitled to it. So it requires doing, it requires aligned action, it requires me understanding what it matters, what I want, and then to do the things. So I think fundamentally, to really boil this down as simply as I can get, number one, it's knowing what matters. And then number two, it is allocating my most valuable resources of time, attention, energy, and money to what matters. The main thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. And we have a tendency to lose the script. Like, oh, that's right. I was supposed to be doing X, Y, or Z. So getting a really clear understanding, again, of what matters, what I need to be doing in service of what matters, and executing on that consistently. So that's the idea. So if my plan is to be spending money on this, if my plan is to be spending my attention on this, my plan is to be spending my time on this, spending my energy on that, I'm not advocating that you become 100% perfect with all of this because that's not a recipe for sustainability. But if you can get to 80% of your decisions that are aligned with what is most important to you, of what matters, I think that that's how you're going to find success. Now, I want to go through 7 steps that I think will help you to get to where it is that you want to go. Okay. So, step number one on our path to success is that you have to accept personal responsibility for it. You have to take ownership of your financial success. If it's to be, it's up to me. You're the guy, you're the gal that's going to get this done. Nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's going to do this for me. And even people that are offering to do it for me or to save me, I'm not interested. I will take the wheel. I will take control. I will take complete ownership over all of this, or at least over all of the things that I have control over, knowing full well that I have no control over the markets, knowing full well that I have very little control of the circumstances of my life, but I have full control over how I think, feel, and respond to those circumstances. And that, to me, gives me a great sense of power, responsibility, and meaning, because I believe that meaning is found in responsibility. So that's step number one. Accept responsibility. Say, I take responsibility for my financial success. And just keep it going. I take responsibility for my life. I advocate that you do that. So, number 2 is you have to know your facts. You have to know your facts. So, we have to understand our cash flow. So, I have to know how much money is coming in. I have to know how much money is going out. I must know the value of my assets. I must know the amount of debt that I have. Again, you can just blow right past this and say you know, but I don't think that you do. Just from experience, I know that I didn't. So I know that we need to spend the time to get to know these numbers. Cash flow, assets, liabilities. We have to have a personal budget or a household family budget that we maintain. These are some of our facts. And of course, we have to know where we're going. So we have to, I'm fond of saying the only way to live how you want is to know how you want to live. So going back to that initial conversation about am I going to be okay? Too hot, too cold, just right. I want you to think about all of those things, get really clear on what that's going to look like. And then the next part is what matters. So getting really clear, these are what matters. These are what must be done in service of what matters. So that's a really important thing. Okay. So those are, you could really combine those into the first step. So let's just go ahead and do that. Step number one. So it's taking personal responsibility, knowing your facts. Let's just say that. Step number two is to pay yourself first. And this is the golden rule of personal finance. And all that means is at the beginning of every month, you are making a contribution into some kind of an account with money, into an account that is serving you and your needs and your family's needs. So we make a mistake by waiting around to the end of the month to pay ourselves. So we pay everybody else first. And then we think, okay, then once I pay everybody else first, then I'll allocate money to myself. But if you've ever done that, which I know I did for a long time, there'll be no money left over for you. And you may find yourself in the position where there is more month than there is money. And you find yourself scrambling around, trying to make ends meet, trying to pay bills. And that is super sucky. Not a happy place to be, not a good place to be. And I don't want you to be there. So we pay ourselves first by making the contribution and automating it into an account for you. So as you're developing a savings account, you just move money from your checking account into your savings in the first of the month. First thing you do. Once you have your savings set up, you're moving it into a brokerage account. So investing, or you're putting it into your 401k at work. Or if you don't have a 401k at work, you're putting it into an IRA, an individual retirement account. And all these contributions can be set up automatically. So it just happens without you having to do it. And that's the best way to do it. So we pay ourselves first, even if it's a very minimal amount. With your 401k at work, odds are you can select some kind of a percentage. So you're living paycheck to paycheck. You feel like you're broke and you don't have any money to save. I get it. I've been there too. So just start with 1%. Just get in the habit of saving money and putting it away. Odds are you won't even miss it. From there, I want you to start the seed of your initial emergency fund, which is get $1,000 saved up. Okay. So vast majority of Americans couldn't come up with $500 in cash in case of an emergency. So I want you to not be in that vast majority number. I want you to be in the minority. Do everything you need to get $1,000 saved up. And this must be in an account that is separate from your everyday checking account. So open up a savings account or a money market account. Either or, they're very, very, very similar. Okay. So stop doing everything with the exception of pay yourself first until you get $1,000 saved up. And that is the seed and the beginning of what will become your fully funded emergency fund moving forward. That's a lot of funds, I just said, but you get the idea. From there, I want you to get 1 month's worth of expenses saved up. Okay? So that's why we have to know our cash flow. We have to know our budget. We have to know all of our expenses and just how much our life costs. That's what a budget tells us. It's how much our life costs. And then it's going to tell us, well, okay, now we're covering the costs. How much money do we have? What resources do we have available to pursue the things that we want and the things that we need? Our big financial priorities. Okay. So our budget's going to tell us, here's how much I need to have. I need to have $5,000, whatever your number is, 2,000, 20,000, a million, whatever. However much your life costs. That's our next step, is to get 1 month's worth of those expenses saved up. And that could take you a long time. I certainly understand that. Our next step is that I want you to eliminate your credit card debt. This is why Dave Ramsey is the most important financial person of our generation. I said that a little too loosely. I just did a piece on Jack Bogle yesterday. He's certainly up there. And there are a lot of people that have done really good work and continue to do really good work. So Dave is one of the most important people when it comes to personal finances, Americans' personal finance, because he's effective. Helps people get out of debt. And if you've ever been in credit card debt, which you probably have and maybe are now, I know that I was for a long time. So I know how bad it feels. I know that it can be crushing, overwhelming, feeling like you just follow it around like this rain cloud above you, or it's a wet blanket, or however you like to think about it, or however you don't like to think about it. I get it. But that's our next step. So we need to eliminate our credit card debt. And Dave talks about using the snowball method, which is simply, I mean, first things first, just get an accounting of all the different credit card accounts you have, the company they're with, the annual percentage rates, the amounts, the minimum payments. And Dave likes to talk about the snowball, which is paying the smallest balance first, regardless of the annual percentage rate. The whole thing here is you're going to create momentum. You're going to knock out the smallest one first. It's going to make you feel good. You're going to develop confidence. So it's very, very human nature-y, which I agree with. The avalanche method is taking the one with the highest annual percentage rate first. But I'm with Dave. Go ahead and knock off the smallest balance first. And then however long it takes. It could take you a couple of years to pay off your credit card debt. I think right now we're around $7,000 or $8,000 on average that Americans have. That's killer dreams. I think that credit card debt is one of the most sinister, nefarious things in our culture. It's responsible for hurting relationships. It's behind actual infidelity. It's the leading cause of divorce in America. It just changes our career. It changes all of our calculations. So it keeps us stuck. Debt does. So do whatever it takes. Get mad at your debt. Put a plan together. I've got a course called Get Out of Debt that you can access for free. Go to moneyalignmentacademy.com/courses. You will also find the goals course, the values course, and you can find the purpose book for free there too. So lots of resources to help you do what you want to do, which is what I'm interested in helping you to do. From there, however long that takes you, then I want you to get 2 months worth of expenses saved up. Then 3, then 4, then 5, finally 6. And I know how easily those words leave my mouth. And I know how hard that is to do because it's going to be a lot of money. Whatever 6 months worth of expenses for you is, it's a lot of money. But here's the thing, is that once you accomplish these things, once you accomplish these steps, take responsibility, know your facts, start paying yourself first, eliminating credit card debt. Got 6 months worth of an emergency fund, 6 months worth of cash saved up as an emergency fund. That right there is two amazing things. Number one, it's financial peace of mind. You paid off your debt. You've been saving money for as long as it's been, and you've got a fully funded emergency fund. You can let that pressure off your shoulders and take that deep breath. You've done an incredible thing. You are positioned for success. I want you to have financial prosperity, but you'll never find that until you have financial security. So you get financial security. Now you're positioned to get out there and pursue financial prosperity, whatever that looks like for you. And that's an incredibly awesome thing right there. So this is where you then dig back in to those goals. You dig back into too hot, too cold, just right. Perfect scenario. Worst case, most probable scenario. Because now you're going to have a different perspective on things. You're going to have developed self-confidence, grit, tenacity. You will have proven to yourself that you are able to set a goal, you are able to execute and make hard decisions that it takes to achieve the things that you've just achieved. And that's going to feel really good. And it should. You should be really proud of yourself when you do that. So fast forward to that. Think about how good that's going to feel when you do it, because you will do it. And I tell you what, you do that, you come out the other end, I think you're going to be okay. If you can't break free from living paycheck to paycheck, if you can't get out of credit card debt, I'm not sure. You might talk yourself into it. It's not going to be what you want. And I don't want that for you. If you want things to change, things have to change. If you want to do hard things, a sacrifice, and an investment is going to be required. But you can do hard things. You've done it before. Get out there, start doing the things you need to, start thinking about the most important things to you and what matters, and start focusing on those things. Focus less on the crap that doesn't matter. All right, as we always end the show, friendly reminder, there's never going to be anybody more interested in your financial success than you are. So act accordingly.